Africa was the least of the continent we're supposed to be having these conversations. Conversations of borrowing money, conversations of, fighting the economic war. It's like we have everything to our advantage, and yet it seems like most leaders are losing the war. I mean, have they even chosen to fight the war though? That's the question.
They chose to fight the war, but their mindset was not to liberate everybody. It was to liberate themselves. I am going to use a very weird illustration. So you sit up straight. In a psychological ward where diagnosis can be made over the effects of abuse, various forms of manifestations happen over and above the physical, if it was a physical abuse. There is also so there's a physical abuse itself. There's also got emotional abuse. There could also be mental abuse, which can manifest itself in many ways, where you can either become too abusive also to others, or you can become suicidal, or you can have an altered personality. So when you look at our political leaders, there's a psychology that needs to be set down and discussed. These people fought. These people were at war. These people buried their brothers and sisters. These people went through trauma of the highest orders. And no one bothers to check their mental condition after abuse and how to deal with trauma. So there is individual trauma, which I can face as a person. There is family trauma, when something happens in the family that shakes everybody. There's community trauma, and there's national trauma. Now we're dealing with continental trauma, a reverberation of trauma. So maybe we need a bit of psychologists here who can say, what are the processes when you are dealing with a traumatized person? A traumatized person by hunger will buy 16 houses, 25 cars, 45 pens and shoes and things that he never afforded. Why? Because now he's got there. So a person who is coming from the trauma of poverty, when they have things, they lose everything because they're trying to compensate on what they never had. So now you have 10 cars. So how many can you drive at a time? Can you drive one? Then you find some of these presidents, you grab a house there, you grab a house there, you grab a house there, get a car there. How much money do you have now? No, I'm sitting on 2 billion. 2 billion? You won't even finish eating it. With 3, 4, 5 plates of food a day. You can afford any hospital you want in the world. You can stay in any house you want in the world. But no, 2 is not enough. How much now? I'm on 8. How much now? I'm on 15. And you go. And then after that, we hereby announce the said passing away of.
Gone.
Then what was life all about? What was that drama all about? Only to end up right here. So maybe also issues of satisfaction when it comes to trauma, when you have gone past those levels of accumulation, and then one morning you wake up and go, man, how can I be ordering snow from Europe to celebrate Christmas? How can I be taking 25 million and giving it to France to repair a church? How can I send and hire an aeroplane to go and shop for caviar in Italy and olives in France and then come back home for dinner? How can I do that? So the humanness of our presidents, some of them, I fully understand them, that they are not normal. They are actually traumatized psychologically, to an extent that some may even need medical attention. I'm not joking. We may end up with 1 or 2 of them in psychiatric wards because of them. Because if you should right now sit down with them and ask them to relate what happened to them, what were the wars like, you may discover that they've not gone through it. Some are on drinking, some are on drugs, some are on heavy suppression tablets, high blood pressures, and etc., dealing with the trauma. And while they're dealing with their trauma, they're running a country. So you have patience in some certain places. Some of them are repenting, some of them are growing up, Some of them are coming to your, some of them have dealt with it. So it's a rehabilitation, government for me is a rehabilitation center for military juntas. I never thought I'd gather confidence to say that.
And it's like, what a way to think about it. Who thinks about it that way?
Maybe it's a mindset. It's a mindset that you look at things. I say I'm a watcher. Maybe I've never understood what that means. I stop very often and I look and I look and I observe and I observe and I process 1,000 tons of information in my head, and I process and I think through them, and I begin to hear the voices of reason and common sense, which many people could actually be undermining, but the answers are not far. They're actually in plain sight. There's nothing new that I'm saying that you don't know. That maybe it was not just activated to know. We debrief soldiers so that they can become civilians. Because if you don't debrief them, they will remain in their military. And once they're in a military space, then civilians are something else. They are something else. Yeah. So you can't teach me how to shoot people and kill people, then give me a checkbook and tell me how to manage the Department of Finance. Sometimes our governments fail because we've just put the wrong people in the right places.
Sometimes our government fails because we have put the wrong people in the right places.